Hello and welcome to this week's Eagles Sports Update. I'm your host, Al Willman.
And I'm Derek Maselli. Here are this week's sports.
We'll start things off with tennis.
Yes, the tennis squad earned its first win of the 2016 season when it defeated Oakland University 5-2. The Eagles snatched their first point of the afternoon in doubles play. All three doubles teams quickly dispatched their foes. First, Mary Mayerova and Ani Gagvads defeated Karine Sellis and Juliana Guevara 6-3. Then, the team of Renu Sharma and Anna Valeja defeated Oakland's Sofia Borkati and Daria Artamanova 6-2. And of course, the dynamic duo of Andrea Martinovska and Klara Sapoyeva bested Tamara Blum and Elizabeth Guy. Next, in singles play, Martinovska quickly be rid of Artamanova. Valeja defeated Gagvads defeated Sellis, I should say. And Sapoyeva, though she started off in a bit of trouble, was able to overcome Blum. The win improves Eastern to 1-2 on the season, and they'll head to Nebraska this Friday to face the Cornhuskers at 3 p.m. Central Time. Also, both swimming and diving teams saw action this past Friday. We'll start with the men's team, who absolutely crushed Wayne State here in the Jones Auditorium, 155-67. The diving crew swept both the 1 and the 3 meter events. Brendan O'Shea won the 1 meter with a score of 3:15.60, and Peter Rusinas won the 3 meter with a score of 3:56.63. Cole Bateman, Kyle Arney, Eric Gisson, and Eric Brinkoff won the 200 medley with a time of 1:32.36. And that just about set the tone for the rest of the meet, as the team would go on to place a swimmer in first place for every event except the 50 freestyle. The team now boasts a record of 4-2, undefeated in conference play. The men will next compete on February 6th in Oxford, Ohio. The women's team was involved in a much closer affair on the road in Akron, but won the day by a score of 158-142. Grace Van Allen achieved 3 individual top 3 finishes, and the group of Alexis Mitchelltree and Delaney Duncan, Michelle Lieberman and Mary Kate Maclean secured an Eastern victory in the 200 medley relay. Nicole Schwartz won the 1,000 freestyle, and the Eagles went on to win 10 of the 13 events. You can catch the women's team here at home this Friday when they host Bowling Green at 5.
Both the men's and women's track teams participated in the EMU Triangular Meet on Saturday here in Ypsilanti. Both teams won their respective meets over Oakland University and Central Michigan University. The men tallied 138 points, while the women scored 140 in the only home meet for either team this season. The men took 1-2 in the 400-meter dash. Matthew Williams broke the tape with a time of 49.97 seconds, and less than a second later, Mark Cook finished with a 50.21. The Eagles earned a 1-2 in the 800-meter run as well, when Scott Bradley ran a 1-minute 54.17, and Joshua Sabo was right behind him with a 1-minute 54.73. Anthony Jones took second place in the weight throw with a distance of 20.84 meters, or 68 feet, 4.5 inches. And as a matter of fact, we'll have Anthony in the studio here a bit later on. The women saw first place finishes from Jessica Harris in the 60-meter dash with a time of 7.69 seconds. Aaliyah McKinney was 2/100ths of a second behind her in second place. EMU earned a clean sweep in the 400-meter dash. Chante Roberts won the event with a 56.11, while Kadisha James ran a 58.06, and Jasmine Jones took third with a 58.12. Sophie Galine turned in a personal best 2-minute 14.84 second finish in the 800-meter run to take first. Both teams hit the road next weekend for the Penn State Invitational in Happy Valley. By now, you've probably heard about EMU's 88-87 double overtime loss on Saturday against Ball State University here at the Convocation Center. Ahead 87-85 with 7 seconds left in the second extra frame, Brandon Nazioni turned the ball over on a steal by Ball State's Ryan Weber. Weber got the ball to Francis Kipway, who appeared to make a long 2-pointer that would have tied the game at 87 with 1 second left. Instead, he was awarded a 3, and Ball State won by a point. After the game, EMU coach Rob Murphy voiced his displeasure with that call, as well as a blatantly missed foul in transition. "You don't blame the game on officials," he said, But in my 20 years of coaching, that's the worst ignored call or sequence I've ever seen. Those guys did a bad job throughout the game, but in particular on that play. In the game, James Thompson continued his impressive statistical season with a double-double, yet again. He had 23 points and 14 rebounds. Ty Toney also scored 23 for the Eagles, while Nazione rounded out the double-figure scores with 13. With the loss, the Eagles dropped to 10-9 and 2-4 in the Mid-American Conference and play at the University of Akron Zips on Wednesday. The weekend for the women was much better, as EMU took down the University of Toledo 59-41 on Saturday afternoon. Janae Morton had 23 points for the Eagles, who led the entire way. Shea Sweeney added 14 points. Morton was named MAC West Player of the Week on Monday. The Eagles improved to 13-5 and 4-3 in the MAC, and they play at Bowling Green State University on Wednesday night.
Yes, and we'll be right back with special guest, of course, Anthony Jones, so stay tuned for that.
Are you an EMU student interested in getting a first-hand experience working at a radio station? Well, say no more. EMU offers a class through Eagle Radio that will thoroughly prepare you for a real-life experience. But first, you have to register for the class. Pick a date and a time slot. Then the world is yours. Eagle Radio allows you to be fully independent and customize your own show. Have real conversations about the news, celebrity gossip, update listeners about the weather, play a trivia game. It's your show. You're free to name your show whatever you want and play any edited music of your choice. If you love having heated debates and you feel your words need to be heard, then Eagle Radio is just for you.
My mom's birthday was coming up fast, so I needed to go out shopping for something quick. I needed to move money from my savings to my checking account so I could use my debit card at the mall. I cracked open my laptop, hit the bookmark from my bank, and entered in my username and password. What the heck? I got sent back to the home page. So I entered in my username and password again, made the transfer, and went to the mall where I found this cool little necklace for my mom. That's good news, right? The bad news is, the next week I went to make a purchase and they told me that I had insufficient funds to cover that purchase. Long story short, when I had logged into my bank the first time, I got redirected to a fake site that stole my username and password. I guess I got a virus that redirected my bookmark. The thieves had a field day with my account. I wish I had known then what I know now. You have to check and make sure you're really on your bank's website. This can be done by either recognizing an image you've selected or clicking a lock or VeriSafe icon and comparing the bank's web address to a web address you've got on our certificate. My name is Luke, and I'm trying to be e-safe.
We are True EMU!
True EMU.
We are True EMU.
Under head coach Rob Murphy, Kiapway for a three off the line. Nazione grabs the board. He'll hold on to it, let clock run. Now near a near steal. They're not fouling. Loose ball. Now
Stolen away
with it. They did. 4 seconds fighting with the basketball. No call. Kiapway for three.
And welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit before we have our special guest on about that last sequence that we talked about a few minutes ago in the men's basketball game over the weekend against Ball State. Obviously, if you watched the game, you saw a lot of the replay about that turnover, that sequence.
Yes.
Derek, we talked about this a little bit. We had some very passionate feelings about this. So, Derek, where did they go wrong?
Well, depends on who you consider they. I think Murphy summed it up best when he said, you can't necessarily point to the officials for single-handedly ruining a game. There are other things that happen throughout the course of a game. In this instance, though, I have to agree with him in that I have never seen, probably in my career here at Eastern Michigan, so the last 5 years or so, a worse sequence of events or a more worse officiated sequence of events than I did at the Convocation Center this past weekend.
Sure, absolutely. And you look at that whole transition was just completely. It's like I was talking about this with some other folks who had watched too. It's like the referees had swallowed their whistles for that entire sequence.
Yes.
You get a guy Nazioni who's getting grabbed.
Yes.
No
If you haven't seen the video yet, you should look it up and watch this video. I think it's all over YouTube now. I've seen a couple of different networks have picked up the clip, and the two of the officials actually have since been suspended
Yes, I did see
from
that,
a
yeah.
couple conference games and banned, I think, from
the
postseason.
That's correct.
Which, it doesn't do much to change the win or loss for that matter, but I guess it's some sort of consolation prize.
Yeah, at that point, yeah. I mean,
I will say this, though. I did think there were some questionable decisions that occurred even prior to that in the overtime. And this is one that a lot of people, too, questioned, of course, at the press conference, was why Raven Lee, one of the team's top scorers, was not in the game throughout pretty much the entirety of that overtime, or really even most of the second half. And I believe Murphy said he wasn't thrilled with Ray Lee's defensive effort.
and that's the buzzword with Rob Murphy. If you got a guy who doesn't play well defensively, it doesn't matter who he is or what he's doing, he'll sit for a prolonged period of time with pretty much no explanation besides.
And that's a controversial style. There are coaches who will say, no, in our big games at the moment we bring in our big time player, our guard that really can knock down a three out of nowhere. And that's no discredit necessarily to Alvano or anyone else who came on, but it was also interesting to note that, again, defensively, you have three players out there that are no taller than 6 feet, really, because he was running with Tony, Alvano, and Mangum, in addition to Nazioni and Brown, because both Bond and Thompson had fouled out at that point. But again, why was Jodan Price not involved in this? And again, so those are things that Murphy feels, has to feel out while he's progressing through the game. And unfortunately, you can argue when you get down to double overtime like that, you are sort of just throwing it up to fate, and sometimes it's wrong. If you don't want to deal with that, win decisively. And I know that's easier said than done.
And it's easy to say a few days after the game's over with, but that's what we see.
Yes.
We'll have probably some more commentary as the season goes on here, but that's definitely, that's our big story of the week, is that sequence. But we do also have a guest here in studio.
Yes.
Anthony Jones, we mentioned him earlier in the broadcast. Redshirt junior on the men's track and field team, weight thrower. So Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for
So,
having me.
Absolutely.
did you want to start things?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
that's fine. Yeah.
First, tell us a little bit about weight throwing. I know, there's a lot of different aspects that go into field events and track. So
Yeah, and most people don't really know. Like, we know that there is track and there is field, but within that, especially when it comes to even within weight throw, I know there are multiple sort of things within that, right, ranging from hammer throw to discus and other things. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the hammer throw, a lot of people get confused about it, but really is what it is. It's just a shot put with a wire and a handle on the end. And I don't know if you've ever seen where people hold it with two hands and kind of spin around and then release.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's what the hammer is. And what I do right now for indoor season is called the weight throw. And it's kind of a spin-off of the hammer. And it's a 35-pound weight. And it's basically the same thing, just a little bit shorter and heavier, obviously, so it doesn't go as far. It's an American event, though. So it's only here in America. Some other countries are starting to get into it. But that's basically what I do, is the weight throw. So it's the same thing. You hold it and you spin around just like the hammer and release, but it's just a shorter distance.
So, as the first question that comes from that is, how much of a challenge is it to kind of keep your balance and throw, because you're spinning around like that, you're probably going to get dizzy, right? So.
Yeah, when you first start off, you get a little dizzy. The coach has you doing a lot of drills and stuff when you first get here. Especially, we're not a real big university, so we don't get those guys who have that hammer experience coming out of high school. So it's kind of new to a lot of the freshmen coming in. It was new to me. So he had you doing a lot of turns, and you do get dizzy at first, but you get used to it after a while. But you do have to really work on your balance there when you first start.
Absolutely.
Now, I sort of following up on that, I'm assuming you're a pretty quick learner, because wasn't it within your first season, or I remember something to this effect, and of course, you know your history
Yeah.
better than I do. Didn't you break some sort of record that Eastern had had for like 25 years, coming out in like the first?
My freshman year, I
Yes.
didn't break the record.
Okay.
My freshman year was a good year. I placed 4th at the conference meet, and I think I was about 7th or 8th going in.
Okay.
It was a big PR for me, but I actually broke the school record my true junior year, so my 3rd year.
Okay.
I think it was like a 25-year-old record. It was a really good year for me. It was a breakout year. Coach and I had talked about, really trying to put on weight and get stronger that summer. So it all paid off, luckily.
And being on a team that's as wildly successful as the track and field team is,
Yeah.
that you almost never hear about, is there a lot of pressure to keep on rising up to that level, to that championship level?
There is a lot of pressure, especially when you have such a great group of guys around you. A lot of these guys they go out and they perform pretty well, so you kind of want to do your part too. You don't want to let the team down, and that's really what keeps a lot of guys going is not letting the team down, not letting yourself down, your family down. So yeah, living up to that championship tradition is pretty it's pretty humbling.
Absolutely. and how much of a challenge is it too, being on the road for so much of the
Yeah, I
season?
was just gonna say you have what, one home meet this
Yeah.
season, and that was this past week at the Triangular with, was it Central and who else was it?
Indiana.
That was there. And so after that, it's all on the road from here.
Yeah.
So-
It's a challenge. It's a challenge, especially when you have schoolwork and you really want to focus on your sport and what you're going to do this weekend. And then afterward, you're dead tired. You really don't want to do anything. So a lot of times you'll find yourself kind of cramming everything in on Sunday, which isn't always the smartest thing to do. But it's a challenge, but it is a good experience. So being on the road with all the guys, and after some time when you first get here and you kind of get acquainted with everybody, they kind of become family. So it's challenging, but being that you have everybody there with you, it makes it a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Now, being here in the studio, it's kind of a familiar place for you as an
Yeah.
electronic media and film major.
Yeah.
So what, switching gears into that, what interested you in pursuing that career field?
My brother actually makes music, and it was always something that, I would always kind of help him out a little bit, give him suggestions, oh, you should do this with this video or with this song, And I was in business, and I wanted to go into somewhat advertising, but I majored in marketing, and it was a bad it was a bad mistake on my part.
I thought the
And
same.
yeah,
thing
it was.
going in.
It was a little boring. I couldn't really hang. It was like I was kind of just going through the motions, So I made the switch going into my third year of college, and I really haven't looked back since. I kind of like what I do here. It's fun,
Sure.
And everybody's pretty close. It's like a family atmosphere, so it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so would you want to continue being behind the scenes when you get done, or more in front of the camera? What do you see yourself doing?
Not really sure. Behind the scenes is nice, because you don't really have that pressure to, put on a bright smile and, great posture. But being in front of the camera is kind of fun, It's kind of a rush.
He's got to see how good he looks after this comes out.
Yeah, right.
And he can watch, and then that'll help determine. I do have a question though, and it's sort of a follow-up to you talked about all those road trips and such, and I am curious as to what sort of perhaps one of your favorite memories is, just in general as a part of being on the team. I'm sure there's a lot.
There are a lot. One would have to be the only indoor championship we've won since I've been here. It was at home in Bowen Fieldhouse. It was my first year. It was a pretty amazing experience, to be honest with you, because we don't have too big of a facility, so everything was pretty close and intimate. And
I hate to cut you off.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
you're good.
We're about out of time.
I tend to ramble.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's right. Thanks for coming
Thanks
on,
for
Anthony.
watching.
Thank you guys for watching, and see you next week.